pill.
Have you ever stared at a simple pill in your hand? Maybe, I don't know, something for a headache, or even a really new prescription, and just wondered about the incredible journey it took to get there? It's not just like a quick idea in a lab. It's this huge, often decades-long process.
It really is.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that. How do drugs actually get from a research concept all the way into your medicine cabinet? It's way more complex than you probably imagine.
It is a fascinating, pretty complex world, yeah. And for this deep dive, we're sort of pulling back the curtain on that approved drugs chapter you shared.
Okay.
Our mission really is to illuminate the very rigorous processes run by the FDA, the kind of staggering financial stakes involved, and, the market dynamics, how it all works.
Right.
We'll unpack the key stages, the huge costs, and shine a light on the major players, give you a good overview you can hopefully remember and, explain easily.
Okay, let's unpack this journey. Let's start right at the beginning with the gatekeepers. Here in the U.S., that's mainly the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, right? CDER.
That's right, CDER, a key part of the FDA.
And their fundamental role is it's crucial. They regulate the whole process for testing drugs in humans.
Exactly. Without their say-so, no human trials can even start. It's like the ultimate permission slip.
So how does that permission actually work? What are the steps?
Well, it's pretty precise. Before any drug can even be thought about for human clinical studies in the U.S., CDER has to approve something called an Investigational New Drug Application, an IND.
IND, okay.
Think of the IND as like your golden ticket. Without it, all that lab work just stays in the lab.
Right.
Then if a drug makes it through that whole gauntlet of clinical studies successfully, it faces another huge hurdle. The New Drug Application, or NDA.
NDA, got it.
And that application must be approved after successful phase 3 studies. That's the final regulatory clearance a small molecule drug needs before it can be legally marketed, prescribed,
And what about biologics? Things like vaccines. Is it the same?
Good question. So biologics, those bigger, more complex medicines like vaccines or, say, monoclonal antibodies, they go through a similar, just as rigorous process, but it's under a biologics license application, or BLA. Similar idea, different pathway for those larger molecules.
Okay, so IND, then clinical trials, then NDA or BLA. Wow, that's a huge mountain to climb.
It really is.
And it's not just a static set of rules either, is it? I read about the FDA's Critical Path Initiative, the CPI.
Right, the CPI. That's a strategic effort, basically, to expedite and improve drug development.
Which kind of tells you something, right? Yeah. The fact they needed an initiative like that shows how complex and challenging the whole thing is.
It absolutely does. They're constantly trying to optimize this incredibly difficult process.
And optimization often costs money, I imagine. Which brings us to the financial side.
Yeah.
What does it actually cost to push a drug through these trials? Because it sounds expensive.
Oh, it is. It's not just lab work. It's massive investment. There's a well-known study, Damasi and colleagues from 2003, that gives us a pretty clear picture. These are mean costs in millions of dollars.
Okay, I'm bracing myself. Hit me with the numbers.
All right. So that's the first step in humans. Small group, mostly looking at safety.
Right, basic safety check.
The average cost was $15.2 million, with a standard deviation, mind you, of $14.3 million. So quite a range, but still a big chunk of change up front.
$15 million just for phase 1. Okay. Then phase 2, that's where you test it in actual patients with the condition.
Exactly. A larger group looking at effectiveness, refining the dose, still watching safety very closely.
And the cost?
Jumps significantly. The mean cost there, $41.7 million. Standard deviation, $30.2 million.
Wow. Okay. More than double. And then the big one, phase 3. That's thousands of patients, right?
Yeah.
Comparing it to what's already out there.
That's the one. Large scale, confirming effectiveness, monitoring side effects across a diverse population. The final major hurdle before that NDA or BLA submission.
And the cost for that?
It skyrockets. Mean cost for phase 3. $115.2 million.
Whoa.
With a standard deviation of $95.0 million. So again, huge variability, but we're talking over $100 million on average.
Just wow.
And what's really striking and so important for understanding, drug pricing and company strategy is that exponential jump. Phase 1 to 2, 2 to 3. It's not just spending more. It means a single phase 3 failure can just wipe out hundreds of millions of dollars and years of work.
That's terrifying from a business perspective.
It is. It's why they have to try and get it right early on, but it's also why the drugs that do succeed need to generate enormous revenue. They're essentially paying for all the failures that came before them.
That definitely puts the cost of medicine in a different light. It's a massive gamble. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Looking at the bigger picture, given how tough and expensive this is, are we actually seeing more drugs getting approved over time? Or is it going the other way?
That's a really interesting question, and the data might surprise you. Looking at FDA approvals by therapeutic area since 1995, well, the trend isn't upwards.
Oh.
If you look at total approvals, say from 1995 to 1999, there were 696.
Okay, decent number.
Then the next 5 years, 2000 to 2004, it dropped to 371.
Quite a drop.
And then again, 2005 to 2009, it went down further to just 245 approvals.
Wow, so a significant decline over that period. What does that mean?
Well, it has serious implications. From a market standpoint, fewer new drugs could make the successful ones even more valuable.
Right, scarcity drives up value.
Exactly. Which could impact patient access, maybe push R&D towards safer bets instead of really novel, high-risk ideas. It's complex.
Yeah.
But within that overall decline, some areas consistently saw a lot of activity. Things like endocrinology, cardiology and vascular diseases, immunology, infectious diseases, neurology, and oncology.
So focus in areas with big needs or maybe big scientific opportunities.
Pretty much reflects where the major unmet medical needs were and perhaps where the science was moving fastest.
Fascinating. Okay, so fewer drugs, focused efforts.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the companies doing this work and the money involved. Who are the giants and just how big is this whole market?
Right, the major players. If we look at, say, 2009 revenue just from pharmaceutical sales, the top 5 were real global powerhouses. Pfizer, based in the US, was number 1, $45.4 billion.
$45 billion. Ooh.
Then Sanofi-Aventis from France, about $36.1 billion. GlaxoSmithKline, GSK from the UK, $35.1 billion. Roche from Switzerland, $34.5 billion. And AstraZeneca, also UK-based, nearly $32 billion.
Huge numbers. Global reach.
Absolutely. And if you look at the total market size in 2009, well, hold on to your hat. Pharmaceutical sales overall, $810 billion.
$800 billion.
Yep. Biologicals, the vaccines, antibodies, etc. added another $130 billion. And generics, the copy, is about $90 billion. We're talking well over $1 trillion combined.
That's just staggering. What areas were driving the most revenue within that?
Within the main pharmaceutical market, the big 3 therapeutic areas by revenue were central nervous system drugs, around $125 billion.
Wow.
Cardiovascular drugs, about $110 billion. And oncology, cancer drugs, around $75 billion.
Okay. And for the biologicals?
Top earners, there were monoclonal antibodies, maybe $40 billion. Vaccines, about $25 billion. And TNF inhibitors, often for things like rheumatoid arthritis, around $22 billion. It just shows the immense scale.
Mind-boggling figures. It's clearly a massive, massive enterprise. Let's make that data a bit more real, though. Talk about some specific examples, the real blockbusters driving that revenue back in 2009, the ones funding the next wave.
Absolutely. The top sellers really show where the money was and where the big medical needs were intersecting. Take Atorvastatin, you probably know it as Lipitor.
Lipitor, yeah, for cholesterol.
From Pfizer and Astellas. In 2009 alone, $12.45 billion in sales.
$12 billion from one drug.
That's incredible. Or clopidogrel Plavix.
Plavix, right? Blood thinner after heart attacks.
Exactly, for acute coronary syndrome. From Bristol Myers Squibb and Sanofi-Aventis, $9.29 billion in sales.
Still huge.
Then there's Etanercept, or Enbrel, from Amgen, Pfizer, Takeda. Treats rheumatoid arthritis, other inflammatory conditions, $8.0 billion.
Okay.
And maybe one more, bevacizumab Avastin from Roche, for colon cancer, among other things, $5.92 billion.
So these are the financial titans.
They really are. You could almost think of them like, I don't know, the superhero movies of the pharma world.
Yeah.
They're the massive hits that basically fund the next decade of R&D, letting companies take risks on newer, maybe even more innovative drugs that might otherwise never get developed.
Incredible how one drug can have such a huge financial impact. But like you said, the industry doesn't stand still. The pipeline keeps moving. Let's illustrate that. Look at a snapshot from early 2010. What was just hitting the market then?
Right, yeah, good idea. If you look at just the first half of 2010, January to August, you see this constant flow of new therapies. For example, tocilizumab, brand name Actemra from Roche, approved January 2010 for rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay, another RA drug.
Also in January, liraglutide, or Victoza, from Novo Nordisk. That got the green light for type 2 diabetes.
Diabetes, a huge area too.
And here's one I think really highlights the patient impact. Dalfampridine, or Ampyra.
Ampyra, what's that for?
From Accorda. Approved in January 2010 specifically for improving walking in patients with multiple sclerosis.
Oh, wow. That's very specific and it sounds incredibly helpful for daily life.
Exactly. It addresses a real daily challenge, not just, underlying disease progression. And then maybe one more. In May 2010, Sipuleucel T, or Provenge, from Dendreon, approved for a specific type of prostate cancer, hormone-refractory prostate cancer. And it was notable because it was kind of an early example of an immunotherapy, a cancer vaccine, essentially.
Interesting. So it really shows the pipeline is constantly moving, new things coming out across different diseases.
Absolutely. It just reinforces that dynamic nature. New therapies addressing a wide, always evolving range of conditions.
Okay, so wrapping this part up.
Yeah, so look, we've basically charted this really complex path, right? From that first investigational new drug application, the IND,
Right.
through those incredibly tough and costly clinical trial phases.
Phases 1 and D, yeah.
Landing at that crucial NDA or BLA submission. And all of this happens under the very watchful eye of the FDA.
Mm-hmm.
We've touched on the staggering costs involved, the sort of shifting landscape where fewer drugs are getting approved overall.
Yeah, that downward trend was surprising.
The sheer scale of the pharmaceutical market, billions and billions, and the huge impact of those blockbuster drugs, the Lipiders and Plavixes of the world.
It's clear that understanding this process is just. It's critical. Not just if you're deep in pharmaceutical sciences, but really for anyone who wants to get a handle on the forces shaping our health and medicine.
Totally agree.
It's this whole ecosystem, isn't it? Cutting-edge science, careful regulation, massive economics, all interacting.
That's a good way to put it.
So maybe a final thought to leave listeners with. Considering that trend we talked about, the decreasing number of FDA drug approvals over time, even with all that investment, what might that signal? What challenges does that pose for future drug discovery? And, how might that affect innovation and ultimately our access as patients to really new novel therapies? Something to chew on?
PharmaPal.